Hello. When I started this, I thought it'd be a good idea to write about life expectancy compared to GDP per capita levels of countries. However, we were told by our professor that we couldn't do that because it'd be way too easy and too many people would do it. So we had to come up with our own. I decided to do debt to foreigners versus cell phones per 100 people. And I'll explain to you why I chose that. When someone thinks about debt to foreigners and cell phones, you instantly think, the developing countries are going to have more debt compared to developed countries. However, that is not the case. Or if you're comparing them per cell phone, that is absolutely not the case. As you can see on this chart we have in front of us, mostly here you're going to see mainly third world countries. There are a couple first world countries like China, Russia, Thailand, and countries of that nature. You're not going to see the United States or the United Kingdom because the debt for both of those countries are so massive. It would throw off the entire chart, especially if you counted how many cell phones people have per 100. How many cell phones per 100 people everyone has. I mean, it would completely ruin the chart. Here, we'll start the chart. And as you can see, at first, every countries are accumulating debt, but they'll come back down, pay it off, and then the cell phones come in. As you can see, one over here with the most phones and not the least amount of debt, but with the most phones and least amount of debt is Thailand, which is a very developed country, moderately developed country. Then you have Mongolia, which is like a second world country going first world. Montenegro. You need to have down here Central African Republic, fewest amount of phones per 100 people, and still has a decent amount of debt. You got here India, countries of that nature have debt and have cell phones. The reason I chose this though was because I believed that developed countries would have less debt per cell phone compared to third world countries, and I was sadly mistaken. However, I couldn't find any sources on the internet anywhere that talked about these two things together. So I had to do my own research and just look at different websites and learn about them. But and of course you will see on here there are some countries that are third world countries and have more debt than say some first world countries or developed countries would. And I mean there will always be exceptions, but those aren't the rule. Those are just the exceptions. Now, when looking at this, I personally thought and was surprised to see India here. One had this many cell phones. I didn't think India had this many cell phones based off of what I had heard, and I'll be the first to admit how wrong I was. And I thought China would be much farther up, more towards the 200 than the 120. But I mean, it just shows you that you have to do research and look into these sort of things to make sure that you're correct, because the economics are not always going to be what everyone hears about. You got to look into it and you got to learn about it. You can't just guess and assume. I mean, I would have never guessed that Mongolia, of all of these, had the most debt. And was this far up with cell phones. I thought it would be farther more towards where Thailand is. But I mean, it just shows that you have to do your research, look into it, and you cannot make guesses and assume. Thank you for your time. Once again, this is debt to foreigners versus cell phones per 100 people. And it shows that my hypothesis of developed countries or developing countries have more debt compared to developed countries. Thank you for your time and have a good day.